Hey, this is Dave from metalepidemic.com. Thank you for checking out our YouTube video. Please feel free to hit the subscribe button below if you like this type of content, and we hope you enjoy the review. What's happening, folks? I hope you're all safe and well, and thank you for checking out our review. On this one, Duncan and I will be discussing and rating the new album from Cathartic Black Metal band Gaerea. Gaerea are from Portugal and first emerged in 2016 with their self-titled EP, released through Everlasting Spew Records. The EP received a lot of praise, and it wasn't long before the band followed that up with their first full-length album, Unsettling Whispers, in 2018. Since then, the band have been touring the globe, which most recently included a European tour with label mates Numenorian in 2019. Now, it's safe to say that even when we were reviewing for Rock and Reel Reviews back in the day, neither of us really reviewed a vast amount of black metal.
Whoa, Dave. Why, like, you say that. Why is that, Dave?
Well, whenever we did that, the internet were not kind to us.
Now, why would the internet not kind to us, Dave?
Well, when I say us, I actually mean you.
I love how you launch yourself in there. I hope that you take the bullet that's shot at me. I have. You will get, the longer you listen to these reviews, folks. If this is your first time listening, be prepared to hate me quickly. The longer you listen to these reviews, the more you'll get a grasp of our taste. And I would stress, as always, that you liking something that I don't like doesn't mean that I disagree with you. It just means that your tastes are more inclined to like that particular thing, and Ming's isn't. I tend to, when it comes to music, I tend to like things that really rely on changes in tone and atmosphere, but not at the cost of just being so abrasive and so at times deliberately poorly recorded that I it's just like being hit with a wall of fucking white noise. And there's a lot of groups that fall into it. Now, what I would stress, Steve, is that in the last 8 years since we kind of originally started that jaunt of doing those reviews and all the rest, to me, black metal has gone under a bit of a renaissance, actually, and there are a lot of groups out there that are under the black metal moniker that I imagine hardcore purist black metalers fucking despise the idea of them even using those terms. But I've warmed to it, specifically when they are used as part of an influence in other different genres where you're adding that element in. And we have already this year, as part of the Metal Epidemic, had a few bands that are, that way inclined without being out and out, we want to sound like fucking 1987 Mayhem. You know what I mean? There's certainly, there's bands out there that do that and still do that, but even Mayhem don't sound like Mayhem anymore. I know, I fucking loved that Mayhem album. You want to know why I loved it, Dave? Because I could make it everything that was being played. Absolutely fucking everything. So like, the times have changed, Dave. Now that we're saying don't fucking hate us, don't hate us because we're maybe not as high on black metal as you. Black metal fans are so fucking like hardcore as well. Like about the likes, it's like you like well, they don't actually want you to like their stuff either. It's like, I like this and fuck you, which once again I am cool with, but there's no room for cathartic kind of descriptions in that approach. And there was, I didn't realise that this was a cathartic black metal band.
It's safe to say it's not our go-to genre, and as you say, it's not because we don't like it. It's more the fact, for me anyway, I'm just really picky about black metal. I know what I like and I know what I don't like. And more often than not, the black metal bands that I'm drawn to tend to blend their sound with other styles. Numenorian being a perfect example of that. Adore was my favourite album of 2019. It's a stunning collection of post-black metal songs. My other prerequisite, like you mentioned, is a good quality production, because I cannot do the lo-fi production. I can't get past it. I've tried and tried to get into it, even just enjoy the music behind it. It doesn't have to be meticulously produced and polished, because I realise that like, a bit of rawness in the production can really work with a band
Big
sound.
sludge fans, so
Exactly,
that
exactly.
flies in the face of that. So
I know, but recording on a tape deck in your bedroom is not something I can get on board with. I'm sorry, I just
unless you're
can't.
really good at it.
Yeah, well,
It's when you're recording in recording in the ruined, burned out church, and all we had was a dictaphone and half an hour to write, record, and put out these songs. That's where I kind of lose a little bit of this. So
yeah. Anyway, Gaerea. Anyway, I didn't think I had heard Gaerea before. But when I saw the press photos of the band, I realised I actually had heard one of their tracks. They released a track called Null back in May, I think. And I remember being totally fascinated by the video. It's kind of like the band are playing against like a deep red background, which eventually turns to white. And there's lots of kind of black smoke swirling around their kind of darkened silhouettes. And I should probably mention at this point, this band is completely unknown. They don't show their faces at all. They wear these kind of black hooded masks that just have this kind of weird kind of symbol on the front. It's quite menacing looking in the video. And masks are the in thing right now, so you know, maybe they knew something we didn't.
what we're saying is no chance of them picking up the Rona. You know what I mean?
They're safe. So the music, the album, it didn't begin how I expected. For a black metal album, I expected this to come like blasting out of the gate from the get-go, but instead we're kind of slowly introduced to Gaerea with an 11-minute epic entitled To Ain or To Ein. I'm not sure how you quite pronounce that, but it opens with these kind of distorted ringing chords that sound like they've had some kind of, almost like a kind of high-pass filter on them. They sound very Behemoth-esque, I suppose is the only way I could describe it. And then the rest of the band kind of start to come in and they build up the intro, which then leads into a kind of flood of double bass drums and a really kind of weighty riff that, to be honest, it wouldn't go amiss on a Gaerea album, in my opinion. But that soon changes when the lead guitars kind of start to bleed in, and the tone of the track like adjusts into something really like far more kind of melancholic. And this is like what I noticed from the album, and this is something that Gaerea are extremely skillful at. The way they kind of seamlessly fuse those kind of menacing riffs with a kind of almost kind of uplifting melody is quite spectacular. It's quite profound. That first track, it made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up at times. And there's a moment in the middle of that track where the band kind of strip everything back right into this kind of minimalist ambient section, just kind of clean guitars. There's like a kind of snare roll and like really kind of harsh screams. It's all kind of like caught up in reverb, and it just kind of simmers for like about 2 minutes, and then they like unleash holy hell with this like absolute sledgehammer of a riff. And it's like moments like that on Limbo that you realise this band, they can't really be pigeonholed as just like a black metal band. They have these like heavier moments that are almost like kind of like black and death metal at points, and then there's like atmosphere and melody which just gives the album like little shades of like post black metal and atmospheric black metal, and I think it's like all these individual flavors in the end that make this album really kind of worth shouting about, because musically, like, I think it's a stunning piece of work. Really, like, how did you feel about the first track? How do you feel about how it opened?
I thought it was an incredible opener. I was a bit wary about this one, if I'm honest, when it came through, specifically because I could already tell that it may be leaning more towards the black metal subgenre, Dave, from the album artwork. Even the font, which isn't traditional black metal, like, you know, scroll font. This one actually, if anything, has a kind of more kind of almost kind of gothic, old-fashioned font for the name of the band. and the artwork itself weirdly reminded me of, there's a Spanish, here Duncan's just going to start throwing out shit, there's a Spanish horror series called Tombs of the Blind Dead, which, I mean, if that's not a band name by now, I don't know. You're not doing your job, death metal bands, get it. But certainly the album artwork, and I could, like, before I listen to any bit of music from a band, I'll spend a bit of time checking out, you know, the artwork and all the rest, and that just goes back to days of being like a collector of music. You do that, it would sometimes inform what it would sound like, and this sounded nothing like the cover at all. I've mentioned this before in our podcast, but on these videos as well, about atmosphere and tone being a huge thing on how I listen to music in the advanced stages that I am in. I want to stress I'm not that old, but I'm not that young either, Dave. And I've been round the houses, and when I listen to music, I want things to grab my attention, whether it's just really, really well written music, or it's someone adding an element that I don't commonly associate with the genre of the music that is preceding it. And Gaerea are, well, you mentioned they're masters of it, but I don't think that what they do is so difficult to do, and not structurally weaken the sound of a track. I was kind of like, I was listening to it, and at times I was wondering how we ended up in places that we were on the track, and how it had organically moved into that without feeling forced, or like having a break and then like a quieter set. Like the very, very comfortably and seamlessly transitioned through several different phases. And I think the reason the hairs on the back of your neck went up is it's interesting you said it's cathartic black metal. The idea of catharsis is, as a concept, as being able to kind of lean into and give of yourself things that are deeply held in a wave of relief, is very much how they write their music. And it kind of, it's when you were describing it earlier on, I was like, that totally fucking works. You know, they're not like rap zipcore or some shit like that where you're like, oh, come on, fuck. This, you know, it actually suits the tone. But above all else, like, they haven't really sacrificed anything in terms of, I personally think, and the internet will disagree with me, in terms of the qualities of what make black metal really interesting by including those elements. And you're right, it definitely starts to lean more into the black and death metal, and parts specifically with the guitar tone, which at times gets so fucking abrasive and so heavy that you expect it, the track almost to tip over with the weight of it, and then it will very, very, very carefully craft itself back out and allow itself to breathe. That is so unbelievably difficult to do, writing music. So they're either the flukiest shower of bastards ever who managed to do it for 52 minutes, or, you know, these guys really put a lot of thought in, and that's where I kept leaning to, was the craft and writing the songs behind this. Vocally, this is fucking amazing as well. The vocals are stunning, like absolutely fucking stunning. The melodies are haunting at times. Go for it.
They might not be what you expect either from a black metal album. I mean, there's moments of that kind of like customary black metal high end, but actually it's pretty minimal for the most part. The vocals sit more around the kind of mid range, and even occasionally do kind of drop lower for those kind of heavier parts as well. But it wasn't just like the texture of his voice that I liked, it was the amount of like emotion that he manages to put across in his vocal delivery. There were moments that sounded like he was actually like hysterical or in pain. It reminded me a little of Corey Taylor. Not necessarily like his tone or texture, but that emotion. I remember when you listen to the first Slipknot album, and you could just like hear him kind of emptying out his pain basically without holding back at all. I kind of got that feeling from this, and again that probably feeds into the whole like cathartic black metal idea again, like kind of where it cultivates from. that kind of release of emotion. I definitely felt that in his performance and the recording as well. It was amazing. I loved the vocals on it, really did.
Sustained all the way right through as well. That's the thing. That's, you know, once again, this is a band that are bearing their soul to you over. Once again, it's like 6 tracks, 52 minutes, and not a dull moment. Like, not like, to me, not a. I'm not saying that this is not the best album I've heard this year, but it's remarkably different from a lot of what I've heard this year. Like, just on a completely different. It's where you like, if you were trying to pick your top 5 death metal albums for the year, top 5 metal, you know, if you're breaking down, where do you put Gaerea?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's really fucking difficult. And I like bands that are not easily categorized or identifiable, and I don't even mean that from the fact that they are physically unidentifiable because they wear fucking the robes and shit, but like musically they're just it's very, this is one of these ones that I feel however much I say about it, I'm never at any point going to be at the position where I can accurately and comfortably articulate to you the experience. And I think that's where I lean back on this one. Is like, certain albums are all about the moment. You know what I mean? They're all about that one big fucking pummeling riff that hits 2 minutes into the track, and from there you're in a wave of euphoria to the end. Other albums are about, or other bands specifically, are about experience. It's about the experience and the journey that you take with them, listening to their work. And Gaerea are in the second camp, and comfortably in the second camp. There are moments where you actually feel like uncomfortable listening to, like you say, just, well, especially if you're a guy, right? Guys don't like the emotional shit. Kind of devoid, like, to hear people. I think that's why vocalists that do that have like such a strong impact and resonance, specifically in this genre. Is, you know, they do grab you and they pull you in and they make you feel a bit uncomfortable, but weirdly you know you're drawn to it, and it's full here. There's it's the one that I struggle to pronounce, Conspiranoria, I think that might be it, which is about the halfway mark in the album, and I've listened to this twice, just sheerly the length is kind of. And also, I would just say that you have to be in the right frame of mind to listen to Gaerea. I was not the first time I got through it. The first time I got through it, I was like, fucking felt drained while I was doing my office job. You know what I mean? This is not the time to listen to this band. The second time I listened to it was last night. I went out for a walk at midnight because I can't sleep, and we're all locked in, and the sun was kind of just setting. I do this every now and again. The sun was just kind of just set over the hills, and the sky was a kind of weird, kind of almost like an ember colour. And that track 4, Conspiranoria, kicked in, and it was just one of those kind of outer body experiences where you just feel like everything is just converged to one point from that moment for you to listen to that song. And it's another one where they don't spare the rod in delivering the heaviness, but at times there's just like, it just dances in the background to these concepts and ideas of kind of transcending it to new levels of melody and stuff. I genuinely can't say enough good things about this album, which makes me uncomfortable because I should be saying black metal. It's a load of shite, Dave.
Well, one of my favourites was a track called Urge, and it's another track that kind of blurs the lines between genres, but probably leans more heavily on the death metal side of things, riffs wise. But they still managed to like lace the track with these like bleak undertones that seem to add so much depth and diversity to their sound, which again makes it very difficult to say this is the death metal style track of the album, because there's so much going on that you can't dismissively label it as one particular thing. But I think this will probably work in the band's favour, because this album, even more so than their previous album, will probably draw fans from genres that border black metal and its kind of subgenres. I think this is a very strong release, and I would not be surprised if this band blows up in 2020 Not physically blows up, obviously, but and becomes a name that's mentioned alongside bands like Behemoth. They definitely deserve the recognition because this album is a kind of real statement. Rating wise, it's a tough one. I'm going to rate this a 4.5, but
Fuck's sake, Dave, you're just like looking at my notes all night.
sorry. You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if this goes up to a 5 after spending more time listening to this album. But at the moment, I'm sitting at about a 4.5 out of 5.
Yeah, I think this is the poster album for the 4.5 rating. And that, you know, I've come to them, I've listened to it. There's so much going on that engages and draws me in. They've, you know, but I still think there's scope for something else.
Yeah.
And they're on my radar now. So that's the first hurdle with me, is getting on my radar, and then you don't really need to worry about much after that, because I'll go my way to follow and make sure that, you know, I'm aware of what they're doing moving forward. It's a really, 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 really good album.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's the moments of these that I'm glad that you get a chance to do, like, reviews, and these promotion companies send through albums which I typically wouldn't get much of a chance to listen to, or would write off purely by the genre that it's in. So.
Yep. So that's Limbo. It's out on July 24th on Season of Mist Records. If you want to check out this band, you can go to facebook.com/Gaerea. That's Gaerea. Go check them out. Thanks once again for checking out our review. Leave some comments below. Let us know what you think if you've heard any of the tracks. There is a kind of live version of the first track on the album. I'd recommend going and checking that out. They just released it today, I think, or yesterday, of the guys playing this first track from the album, and it sounds amazing live. So if you get the chance, go and check it out on YouTube. But yeah, we'll be back with another review very soon. Until then, take care, and we'll speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.